Today we're going to be talking about storytelling with maps and data. And specifically, we are going to take a look at Esri's ArcGIS StoryMaps platform. This is a platform that we have access to for free through our through OSU's site license with Esri. So as long as you are a member of the OSU community, you will have free access to this software and all of its capabilities. Now, everyone, I think, got the link to the document that we're using, but I'm going to go ahead and put it in the chat just in case. So that it's there. And so I'm going to just be working right off of that, so feel free to follow along. So we will just go through the motions of creating a story map, which is honestly fairly self-explanatory in a way. It's a narrative that you build incorporating maps, but also you can incorporate audio, you can incorporate video, and other multimedia content. It's a way to share your story. So it's really something that in the sense of OSU and especially for people doing coursework or doing research, it's a way to kind of wrap up your research or a project in a really reader-friendly manner, a way to sort of disseminate your results in a public-friendly manner. And you'll see that it's hopefully it's a fairly easy platform to get started with. So let's dig in a little bit. So first of all, we need to go to the StoryMaps website and go through the whole sign-in process. So if everyone could just go to the site I'm at, which is storymaps.arcgis.com. And once you're there, you can see a lovely background. And then a little blurb about StoryMaps itself, and then this turquoise colored sign-in button. So go ahead and click on that button. Now, what we will do, since we are all here at OSU, we are going to ignore this top ArcGIS login screen and instead click down here where it says your ArcGIS organization's URL. So go ahead and click that. And in this input box, type in OSU-GEOG. So that's OSU-GEOG. And then click continue. And then you can click where it says login using your O key. And that'll bring up the usual OSU login screen, and you can just use your O key login address and password, which is your email and password. Never mind my password manager thing, but your email address and your usual password is all it should take. If you have the Duo two-factor authentication, you might need to do that. I'll hopefully demonstrate just how quick you can deal with that live. There we go. And once you've logged in, let's see, I'm just gonna delete this one so everyone, and this is what you should see. You'll see this create your first story, nice big bold thing in the middle here. So let's create, so you can create a new story either by clicking start a story here in the towards the bottom, or up in the top right, there's new story, and it doesn't really matter. But I'm going to click new story. I'm going to click start from scratch, and that's going to launch the story builder. So this is software, but it runs in the application. So you can call it a web application, call it an app, call it whatever, a website. And so once we've started, and I should say, if anyone gets lost or has questions, especially since we're such a small group, feel free to just ask, just talk out loud and let me know that you need a little something in terms of further instruction or help. That is not a problem by me. Okay, so here we are at the beginning. It's a very good place to start. And let's take, we're going to make a title. So right here where your cursor starts out is at title your story. And you can do whatever you want. Like, we are not going to be focusing on content here necessarily. I just want to show you the sort of variety of what we can do with this platform. But I'm going to talk about mapping the census. So I'm just going to type in mapping the census, and then we're going to put in just a little introduction, or subtitle goes here. And there we go. We have our title, we have our subtitle, and now we want to add a nice background. So you see up in the top right, there's this button that says add cover image or video. And if you click that button, you can find, you can drag either a video or an image to use as your background. And you want to make sure you use a high quality image, because otherwise it'll be pixelated and just kind of not look too great. You can use whatever you want, but you can use Google Images. You can use Unsplash, which is a really great source for very high resolution images. But I'm going to use a map from our digital map collection. And if you're following along, this is on page 4, and it'll just be easy. So I'm going to follow that link. Let me paste it into my screen up here. There's that. I'm going to right click, save image as. We're just going to save it as default here in images. Then I'm going to pop over, and here you see it says you can drag and drop a file. So I could either click browser files and pick it there, but you see with Chrome, it puts our downloaded JPEG right there. So I can just drag and drop it right onto the image uploader, and then click add. And there you see it displays quite nicely on our cover page. Now we can adjust how our cover page appears by clicking on the design menu, which is up here at the top next to preview. See where I'm poking? It's design, so let's click that. And here you can change it from, so this is currently minimal, you can go side by side, or you can use full. And generally speaking, I would say if you have, especially in my case where I'm often using maps and my focus is on highlighting just really beautiful examples of maps and things like that, I like to use the full option, especially if you have a nice size image, then you really can't go wrong with the full option. And you can see down here under design, not only can you adjust the cover layout, but you can change the theme. So there's 6 sort of baked in options. I'm going to leave it at Summit, which is the default. But you can see here, there's an option that says manage my themes. And this is a fairly recent addition to the software. It lets you build your own theme. So you can choose your own colors, pick between a few different fonts, and really kind of customize what you are going to present to your viewers. And that can really make the difference in terms of a sort of professional looking story map. And I'll show you towards the end of the workshop, I'll show you a story map that we've put together in our department for a project that uses a custom theme for our story map. So once you're happy with your design choices, you can just click design again to close that submenu, and we'll move on. So now if you're ready to, one other thing is if you want to flip the position of your title info on your cover page, you can click these 2 arrows and swap back and forth. And if you want to change how you display the image, which this is, you can see here where I'm moving this around, and it's not changing in the image preview, but where it is changing is on how it's going to display on different devices. So one really nice thing about story maps is that they are made to be readable on a phone or a tablet or a small laptop, things like that. And that really, it's very nice. It's very it makes them very accessible and very, again, when you're focusing on reaching out to a broader audience, making something accessible on a broad array of devices is a pretty key component. So here you can click how what the focal point of the image will be. So this is important if you, especially if you look over at the phone there, you can see how much it changes. And so you can just tweak that, make it look, and then you can add an alt text here, which is important for accessibility purposes. Let's see, and I'll just say census maps from 1890 Atlas. And you would probably want to be more descriptive there, but that's just an example of how you just, in a good practice in general is to add what's called alt text, alternative text to any image you're using on the web, not just for story maps in general. It's a good idea to include alt text because that is a requirement of web accessibility. So when you're ready, now we're ready to move down and start adding some actual text. So you can just scroll on down and you see where it says, tell your story. Let's click there and we'll just start typing some text, lots of text. This is a paragraph. And there, that's how you enter it in there. That's pretty simple, huh? And whenever you're done, you can just hit enter and that'll create a new content block is how you can think of these. And let's take a look at some of the different content blocks that are available. And to do that, we can click on this plus button that's within this nice turquoise circle. So there you see is the whole array of content blocks that are available. Let's start with just a simple text block. So this is the same as above, but you saw when I did that, it brought up this little contextual menu. And so this is for a text content block. You can click here and you see the default is paragraph style, but you can create headings, subheadings, paragraph, large paragraph, lists, and quotes. And we'll go through a few of those and see how they look. And then you can bold, italicize, hyperlink, and then change the color of text. Nothing too groundbreaking when it comes to text. That's not really the focus of what we're doing here. Here we are going to create a heading, just call it history. And you can see it creates very nice spacing. The size of that heading is pretty, they have some good aesthetics for what they are, what they're putting out there. And then we're gonna add a subheading, so same thing, plus text, and then click paragraph, click subheading. And here we're going to say origins of the census. Now we're gonna just add some simple text. And I'm going to, this is where, even if you printed out the instructions, it's probably a good idea to have it open up in a link, because then you can just click and grab what we are messing with here. Obviously, you can just put whatever you want, but it makes it a little more authentic if we actually include something that makes some sort of sense. At least I think so. So here's talking about the part of the U.S. Constitution that mandates the decennial census, so the count of persons every 10 years. And here we also include that the fact that enslaved peoples were counted using a 3/5 fraction, which is just still an important thing to think about today. But so let's, to provide more context, let's include this section, this clause of the Constitution as a full quote. So let's add a text element, and we'll change it down here to quote, which is down at the bottom. And then I'm going to copy that text once again from the document. might change it. Okay, so so I'm going to actually highlight this text because it defaulted back to paragraph, frustratingly, but we're going to select that. Then we're going to change it to quote. And there you see it gives you a nice sort of like call out, like you see with news articles and things like that. But in this case, it's an actual quote from the U.S. Constitution. So then we can actually add, so I'm going to hit enter to finish that content block. And now we're going to, let's link to the full text of the US Constitution, because someone might want to take a look at it. So let's just write in some plain text and say, view the full text of the Constitution. And then on number 7 down here, there is that URL, which is constitution.congress.gov/constitution. I'm going to select the entirety of the view, the full text of the Constitution, click the little hyperlink button, paste in that link, hit enter, and there you see it is a link. Pretty cool. Okay, hit enter to move on to the next line. Now, let's actually get into a little mapping. Let's see what this thing can do. I will say that mapping is not, as you can see, we haven't done anything mapping related. And you can very easily create a story map that does not include actual map content. I guess our cover page is the map. But I'm getting pedantic just for my own reasons. So let's actually insert an interactive map just to see what you can do. So let's hit that plus sign, and then let's click map under the first option under media. And we're going to actually create a new express map. So you see here, you can include a map that you create using ArcGIS Online. We're not going to go into that today. At least I don't think so. Right. But that's something we do get into with another class I teach called Mapping 101. And if you are interested in getting into using ArcGIS Online, and then also how you can maybe blend that or use that content in StoryMap, feel free to get in touch anytime. But I'm going to click on New Express Map here at the top. That'll take us to this kind of fun screen where you see a big world map there in the middle, and then you see a sidebar over here on the left, and a top toolbar that has some options up there. So first, we're going to change the base map. It defaults to this really plain white and gray, which is great when you want to simply highlight your data, or to make draw a very simple arrow or something like that. But I just want to show you that by clicking this gear, which stands for options over here, you see down here, there's an option that says select base map. So let's click that, and we'll change it from human geography light, and let's pick imagery hybrid. And that pops up here. You see it shows up in a few different options, but there are tons of, oh wait, just kidding. No, I want you to select modern antique. You can pick whatever you want. I'm picking modern antique because it's kind of old-timey looking and just kind of interesting. One thing, the satellite imagery is very cool, but it's very difficult to make out notations or pieces of data that you put on top of the satellite imagery. So generally speaking, you're best served, a good rule of thumb is to use the satellite imagery or the aerial photo, whatever you want. Use that if you need it, but if you absolutely don't need it, then maybe you're best served to avoid it, just because it can lead to confusion. Okay, so now I just want to show you how you can draw an arrow. We're going to, well, let's zoom in a little bit first of all. And to zoom in, you can zoom in just like any other map. You can use your mouse wheel, you can use your touchpad and zoom in. You can use the plus and minus buttons here down in the bottom right. You can even hold the shift key and drag a box, which will make you zoom in to that area, which is kind of nice. I'm just going to zoom in to roughly right here so we can see sort of the middle of the United States. And so we're going to draw an arrow. And to do that, we're going to, up here in the top toolbar, there's a little icon that looks like an arrow. So click that. We're going to click where we want the arrow to start. You actually have to click that and then down there to click the type of arrow. So I'm going to click once to create the start point of the arrow, and then wherever you want the arrow to point is where you'll click the second time. So I'm just going to click, we're just going to point at Oklahoma. I'm going to make it a red arrow, and you can change it to a dotted line or a larger dotted line if you'd like. So this is not the most complicated thing, but this is frequently what someone needs to do is just highlight a certain area. Say you have your study area and you want to quickly make a map of it. This is the sort of interface that lets you do it way faster than almost anything else. I'm just going to add in, let's pretend that the label isn't there already. And there you can see I've created a label called, I've clicked on the T up here, which is text, and then you can click wherever and you can type in all sorts of fun things. You can make an annotation transparent so it doesn't have that background you see there. And if you want to get rid of something, so you click and drag it, and then this trash can icon pops up, and you can just drop it right in there. Cue the sound of the flushing toilet. So there, pretty exciting. You can see you can draw in points, lines, and you can draw areas. Lots of options here available with the Express Map options. It's at the same time, if you need to do more than adding a few items or labeling a few things, drawing in a few things, I'm not going to give you an exact number because that's, I don't know, it's not really that sort of a rule. But you're after a certain point, you're better served moving over to ArcGIS Online and creating a map there. And part of the reason why is that you see here in the Express Map, we can't actually save things. You can click done, and then you can go back and edit it, but then that is not, it's a little clunky. But you see here, once we said done, it inserts our interactive map right here into the middle of our story map, which is cool. And one thing that happens, so you see here, as I hover over the map, you see some options up here. The little pencil means to edit. But let's say we want to you can make your map smaller. So right now we're at medium. Let's click on small. And there you can, especially for like a locator map, making it smaller is probably better. But if you wanted to make it full screen, you can do that. And that's if you, it really depends on what you're trying to do, but those options are there. And you can see here again, you can set the alternative text. And here I'll just say map indicating Oklahoma. And there's also the floating option. So if you click float, you can do, you can have something to the side, which is useful as well. But that's, again, just totally up to you how you want to do that. Oh, and you can also add a caption. And frequently, I'll just use the same text for the caption that I've used for the alt text. Your map of the United States highlighting Oklahoma. just show you. So within this caption, you can highlight that, and then just within all these other options, like you can bold within a quote, you can bold all that and italicize. That's you're not like you can't just choose one sort of formatting thing. Okay, let's after our map, let's add a separator. And this is basically just a little line guy that just is a way to sort of create a section break or just otherwise add a little sequence and flow to your story map. And that's something you can customize using the theme customization option that I mentioned that maybe we will have a little time to dig into when we're done here. But I'm not going to get too crazy about it. So let's create another text element, and so you see here, there's my separator, and that plus sign is gray, and then you hover over it and it becomes the nice little circle guy. So let's click text. This is going to be another heading. So let's click heading, and we're going to call it census cartography. So now we're going to add just an image. So before we, I'm going to show you how you can use an image by linking without having to download the image itself. It is a little perhaps obscure, but if you use maps that are stored in various locales, you can see, especially using something called IIIF, which is an image distribution mechanism, but I'll show you. So let's do plus side, click image, and then we're going to click link here. That's a bummer. There it is. I just couldn't see that spot. So you got to click above here, just in the white void. That's embarrassing, but click up there and then click add. And so if it's, depending on what kind of link it is on the web, it will load it and display it fully, or display it on your story map. So it can save you having to go and download things, but it can also take a little more time, as you can see here. But there it is. That's another map. And then what I'm going to do is add a caption here where I'll just say source. Oh wait, no, just kidding. And that we're not going to use the actual image source. We're going to use this link down here in the document. And this is a link showing the map in its home in our digital collection. And I'll just show you what that looks like. So you can see this is a map from 1870. Pretty fun. And so there, so let's set the size to large. And there you can really see, so this is, yeah, that's right. This is showing population density in the United States from you can see the North census. There you can see it's really highly detailed. You can also see where we had to repair this map because it was being from 1870. It was in a little rough shape, but otherwise quite good condition. Really beautiful coloring and nicely detailed, and you can really see just how the roots of the huge difference in population from one half of the country to the other, and how here in Stillwater we are basically at that dividing line, not even just in Oklahoma, but almost for the entire country, which is pretty interesting. So now let's scroll on down past that. We're going to add another map. This time we're going to add um, a non-express map, but we're going to do plus sign. We're going to do map again. This time we're going to hop over to the Living Atlas. So here under Add Map, find where it says Living Atlas. Click that, and we want to choose up and down COVID-19 trends. So if you don't see it there, you can use the search here, up and down COVID. And then you can select that. And so this is a case where we're taking a map that someone else has created. In this case, this is coming from, who is it coming from? This is data gathered by Johns Hopkins University. They have been sort of the kingpins of COVID data. And here you can see where when in terms of where COVID is getting worse and where things are getting better. And that's a case where I believe at the legend. And so here you can see as it's going up, that means it's worse, and when going down means the number of cases is going down. So that makes sense. And then the size of the arrow. So this is broken down by county. So you can see, for example, in northeastern Missouri, there is a marked increase in COVID cases. And for Oklahoma, Oklahoma's in a strange spot. Well, not strange, but a spot where we're no longer, the state is no longer reporting COVID statistics on a daily basis, but rather on a weekly basis, which means that the map of Oklahoma versus the rest of the country oftentimes looks totally different. Like it'll just look like Oklahoma is its whole own thing. Or you'll see zero daily, like zero cases for a few days out of the week, which is not really the case, but just how our reporting works. So you can include your legend here. You could include a search box if you wanted. You could include your current location, but I'm just going to do the legend, and then we'll say place map. And that'll place this map in your story map. And so within that story map, your users can take a look at can query the data, so they can actually click on each of these and see the cases in that particular county and see if they are, how things are going there. And you can do the same sizing options here. We can make it bigger, smaller, et cetera, et cetera. So that's pretty cool. And that's where, so that's an example, that up and down COVID-19 trend. That's the kind of thing you can make in ArcGIS Online. That's very doable based on the kind of data you're working with. As always, with almost any sort of mapping or visualization, it comes down to how well structured is your data, how clean is your data, and that's something that we all will spend quite a bit of time doing if you're hoping to make any sort of visualization. So let's move on and try one of the immersive elements that are available to us. We're going to create a what's called a sidecar. So let's click that plus sign one more time. And down here, scroll down to the bottom under immersive, you can click sidecar. And here you can pick between a floating panel and a docked panel. The floating panel simply appears above the map, so you see more of the map, whereas docked panel divides between your text and your map into two discrete columns. And you can see you can always change it later. But we're going to leave it at floating panel. Say done. That'll move us to the little the maker for the sidecar. So I'm actually going to show you 3 different images. And so I'm going to go to unsplash.com. Another plug for Unsplash. And I'm just going to search for maps just because. And you can see, so all these maps are licensed for use freely. So you don't need to worry about any sort of licensing or copyright violation. You're clear. And the thing you want to remember is just to, generally speaking, you want to download the original size. So you see this green button, you download original size, click that. And I'll just save it into pictures. And I'm going to do this. I'm just going to get 2 more. Oh, well, let's see what this one looks like. And so once you've downloaded a few images, you can add media. So I'm going to add an image. And then just like we did before, you can click and drag. And because of the sidecar, this creates an immersive, this is called an immersive element because it occupies the full size of the screen. You can put text over here, and here you can see, you can continue your, you can include all the elements of a story map down here. So you can even include an image inside of your, so we could put this map, this inside of itself. I don't know why you would do that, but you can. So then once you've got that, you can create a new slide. So you can think of this kind of similar to a PowerPoint. So let's click new slide over here in the bottom right. I'm going to add another image. Let's use this one. Quality might not be as good at this one because I didn't select. It doesn't look too bad. So this is Morley Butchers. That's what we're talking about here. Butchers. And here you can see under the panel, we can actually alter the appearance. So you can make it transparent if your image is dark, if you have enough contrast for your text to appear legibly on there. You can change the position of the panels. And you can also change the size of the panels. So you can make them bigger, smaller, however you want. And so that can be really useful depending on what you're displaying in the background of your sidecar. If you need to, you can just jump over with the panel. Say, let's move this one over here. Let's move this one into the middle. Oh wait, just kidding. Blah. You know what? Maybe you can't. I think. Oh no, you can. Okay, I think I just picked size instead of. So you can set. You can set the size and position of the panel for each slide, which really does allow you to do some pretty interesting customization. So let's add just one more slide really quick. And we'll just do one more image. And you'll notice that you could add videos or maps into the slides as well. And this is where you can take a map, and if you wanted to make, say, like a walking tour or like a slideshow tour of an area, you can create different slides of the same map and just change the location, and that will allow you to jump around that map. It's a little more specific of a use case. And if you want to do that, you can just get in touch, or it's something where there are a lot of learning resources for how you can do that. So here you can see if you want to change the order of something, so you're not totally stuck, you can just click and drag these slides within the interface. You can shrink that down. You can change the layout here. So this is, let's see, I'll show you just what the docked panel looks like in comparison. So this is like that. Here you can change the size of the text versus the image. Here you can swap the layout. And you can see this button here is the transition. And so we could change it to a slow fade. And that the transitions available will vary based on what you have in terms of your content. So if you have a map or other things, it changes. So I'll just add one more, make a map. Let's add this Tulsa 1920 map, why not? And let's, so you know what, actually, let me just show you really quickly. So we'll use this map. Just zoom out here, there's Tulsa. Then I'm going to duplicate it. And there you can see. So there we faded into Tulsa, and now, oops. I think I wanted to make this map action. Never mind, I shouldn't have gone off script. Thrown myself off. Disregard that. Remember what I said before. If you want to talk about that, get in touch, and we can do that. You see here, you can add background audio. That's kind of a new option. I didn't know that was a thing, but that's pretty fun. So that's where you could incorporate audio into your story maps, and that's something that I'll show you with that the project that I mentioned before. So you can see, so this is a sidecar, and then there are a number of other, the other immersive options are slideshow and map tour, and they're similar in their construction. They look slightly different, they work in slightly different ways, but we're not going to go through each of them just because it's more or less the same. And so you'll notice here at the end of the document, give me my scrolling messed up. You can see I have a couple of resources where you can learn more about story mapping and dig in and really hone your skills when it comes to story mapping. So just as one last thing, I would like to show you our story map. And here you can see this is a story map embedded in the library website, but let's just look at it in full screen. And so this is about one of our map collections. I'm not going to tell you the story of it here, but you can see there's an image, there's text, and here is some audio. It's not even playing for me, but that's because my setup is all messed up. But that's audio. You can play right in there. You can see there's a separator. This is the theme here. So you can see there's this sort of this dark blue and sort of cream color, and that I created that theme to correspond with the actual color of the maps themselves. So that's really getting nerdy. And there's just more images, lots of images. There's the maps, and then you can see we jump into interactive maps showing. And so this is a case where as you zoom through, as you pan through the story, it zooms to different portions of the map, describing how to read the maps and what the different symbols on the maps mean. And then there's another image. And then here you can see we have a link, and this is something I didn't include in our the instructions, but you can embed other web applications in here within a story map. And so in this case, this is just a link, but it's a link that gets kind of nicely formatted, and you can make it look better. So this is where if someone wanted to find out how to download these particular maps, they can use that. But you can also include the app itself. You can embed it inside of a story map, and that's an option available to you. And then you can see here, just this is just a GIF, so you can include animated GIFs in story maps. And here's an embed where we actually have a form to submit feedback. This is just a Microsoft form, but you can see you can type in just like any other website, and you can open that in a new tab if you wanted to. So this is live content. And then there's a nice credits section where you can say who made it, who did it, who's responsible, where to go for all these things. So that's an example of a story map actually out there in the world. That's something that you can do. And it's it's kind of fun to put together. They're very satisfying to make, and also there's something that they are pretty impressive when it comes to showing someone what you're doing. Like you can really see what's going on, and really kind of impress people by using these story maps. So I'll stop sharing now. Does anyone have any questions?
So I did have one. I was trying to figure out how the button works. It looks
Oh,
like,
the button element.
yeah, it looks like you should be able to, add content to it, but I struggled with that a bit. I think I got a link and some text added, but
That's basically it's a little bit of a misnomer that they call it a button, because it's basically just a place to put a link, but it's really it's a way to highlight a link. So like if you have a particular call to action for your story map, that's you would put it in the button, just because then it makes it look that much more prominent. But you
gotcha.
can't like set it to, I don't know, play an alarm sound or something.
Well, I was actually looking for a change of color or making it bigger, and I couldn't figure out how to do
Oh
that.
yeah, that's something that you change. Well, actually, that's something that you would change if you customize the theming, which I didn't get into. But you can customize the color of buttons. I don't know if you can just like target buttons themselves, but you can target the primary and secondary colors, and then appearance of things like that.
My other question is, you said as long as you are part of the OSU community, I think is the word you used, you would have access to this. So what exactly does that mean? Basically, it looks like you'd have to have an OKI credentials.
You would need to be an active student, staff, faculty, postdoc. So you need an OKI, but it also needs to be active. So this is not something that's available to alumni, but it is available to students, staff, faculty, postdocs, research fellows. Any of those sorts of folks are able to use it.
I think I noticed, is there a free version if you're not?
There,
OSU?
it's a bit. This is sort of the newest generation of the StoryMap software, and the original generation was technically open source, and you can access that freely, and that's still something that's out there. This new version, I believe you can get a trial for, but it's actually a bit more locked down in terms of its public access.